hogy velünk maradtak a konferencia második paneljére. Angolul fogom folytatni, ugyanakkor a tolmácskészüléken a második csatornán hallhatják majd a magyar fordítást. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Welcome to the second panel of our conference. We are going to discuss the issue of liberalism on the local level with our experts from Visegrad countries. I'd like to, we have Viera Zubrova, who is the executive director of the Bratislava Policy Institute. We have Milos Hodun, who is an expert at the Novochesna political party. Sharka Prat joined us from the Institute for Politics and Society, where she is the executive director, and Andra Virag is the from Republican Institute, who is the director of strategy, and I'm Daniel Mikets. I'm a researcher at the Republican Institute. Welcome you. When we think about liberalism, also Gergely Karácsony and the candidates in the previous panel discussed that maybe the illiberalism or the illiberal system can be challenged from the liberal city, from the liberal big city. This is going to be our major topic. There are, of course, other issues, but in the first round, I'd like to start it with some personal experiences, because when we discuss the local level, it's always something personal, because it's about our neighborhood, it's about the city where we are living, the town, or any kind of municipality we grew up. So my first question would be, what does it mean to you, liberalism on the local level? What kind of experiences, bad or good, you made with the lack of liberalism, or with good local practices of liberalism? So what does it mean to you if you think about liberalism on the local level? Viera, please.
Okay, so thank you very much for inviting me today. Let's jump to the first question. Okay, I like to promote good practices because they are I think the best example how to fight populism and far right, especially as in Slovakia, you know, we have fascists in parliament also, like in Hungary. They are pretend to be not fascists. They are like moderated right now in the center, but still they are marching in the uniforms in the European Parliament still. So the good practices is I'm not coming from Bratislava. I have living 10 years in Trnava. It's a quite small city, 50 kilometers far from Bratislava. And after 22 years of conservative ruling, Christian Democrats, an independent candidate won the election in 8 years from now. He was a hacky sack champion, if you know what this means, a biker and an ecological activist. And he came up with a vision for the city, a vision that brings ethnic, cultural, and economic division back together. And for the first time, fascists in Trnava region, ecological activists, were cleaning their houses together because of that vision. So this is my good practices that we are able to work at the local level with differences, with that you are not able to see the political background. Independent candidates right now are the most popular forces in Slovakia. It's a quite pity that party politics is defeated by independent candidates also at the local level. And he gave us hope with the vision that for me, from the experience that we are living in Slovakia, we need not technocrats or moralizers in the politics, pragmatics not, but we need visionaries. They give us the visions to the future. And this is how also Valo in Bratislava won. He gave us the vision that he could completely rebuild Bratislava with his Bratislava plan. And maybe I will finish with what for me is the term liberalism. It is the discussion. And this is why local community is, I think, the most important community in the state, who is able to discuss various types of problems, discuss the challenges, and liberalism is a way of thinking that keeps asking the question, because what and why and how we are heading and where. This is not like conservative one that tends to pretend that the people should not care about themselves. They should be out of the box, and they should care only about their lives, not about the public lives. Liberalism is completely different. It forced the people to discuss.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me and having me here. So I'm from the Czech Republic, and I would like to follow also with the good practices, because it's exactly, I think, the best idea, and especially on a municipal or local policy is often referred to as a non-political. However, or maybe exactly because of that, the liberalism can play the most important role, or more important role than in a nationwide. Liberalism should practice finding a reasonable compromise that can benefit a diverse society. And while liberalism does promote majoritism, it also believes that there should be equality for members of the society. A liberal government should actually lift the restrictions on individuals and business for the betterment of the society. That's the main point, while also providing a social safety net so that their citizens can feel that they can actually have that freedom of speech. And for example, from the Czech Republic, given the high level of personality, it's probably because of our system, which we have in the electoral system for municipal council. Each individual can contribute to the dissemination of liberal ideas, and thus strengthen their values from the lowest level of politics. Thus in the government itself, the system of checks and balances should be effective to ensure that no one see the government as a control organ of the others. And we have quite an interesting example. We have our political or one of the political parties, which is the strongest political party now in the Czech Republic. They are actually liberals. In 2017, they won the elections with almost 30%. And their liberal approach was especially that they gave the space to other people to tell them what they want. There was plenty of discussion, and they organized a lot of platforms, and even himself, the leader of the political party, he did a very strong contact campaign, and that actually helped to feel or to give the feeling to the people really to say what they need. And this is the freedom, and this is what actually was very successful in our case.
Thank you so much for the question, and thank you so much for having me here. I believe that local politics can be liberal exactly in the same way as the national politics can be liberal, or European politics can be liberal. It's all about values, I think, and all about people. So you can have politics on local level, even on a very close district level, that is according to liberal values or not, that is open and inclusive or not. And when I'm saying also it's about the people, I mean you can have local politics that is made for everybody, or it's just made for separate groups. And I think it was very nicely said in the previous panel that Budapest for everybody is just like Warsaw for everybody. For me, this is something, this is liberal, and this is something that is very different than our opponents, the vision of the local politics that our opponents propose. So big cities or cities in general, just for particular groups, only for businesses, only for conservative groups or churches. This is something that I don't see as liberal. This is something that I don't see as supporting the values. So it's, again, values and the people. And giving an example from my Polish background is we see the cities and local politics as like the fortresses of freedom, of liberalism in the country that is not free, that is not liberal anymore. So we are living in a context on the national level where local politicians, even very local district politicians, can offer some liberal, progressive solutions that will give people hope that they can live in a normal environment. That in the world, in the country, when you know that your government will do everything to, to cut your liberties, to limit your freedoms, you can choose a local representative who will actually be fighting for the scope of freedom on your very local level. So your city will give you something that your state is not willing to give you anymore.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for the question. I think it is a very good one because I think we are talking about liberalism a lot on national and maybe on a European level, but we talk less about what liberalism means on the local level, and maybe it's easier to understand what liberalism is like nationwide or Europe-wide. But on the other hand, as also Sharka said, maybe it's the easiest way to understand what liberalism is and to talk about liberal values and to do liberal policies. Maybe it's more easier on the local level, because that way you can directly talk to the people. It's easier to do direct contact campaign on the local level. So this way, I think local campaigns and local politics gives us a good chance to promote liberalism. For me, just very quickly, because I think we will talk about this question with the next question also. For me, liberalism on a local level, first it's about respecting values, respecting freedom, respecting people, basically. So local politics, if liberal, should be about people living in this town, village, whatever. So it should be about people. Another important thing for me is respecting the idea of municipal freedom and municipal independence, and respecting that the people living in an area should make their own decisions, and if they choose a local government, then that local government should make the decisions, and because they see how the community works, they see the best, and I think it should be important to prevent the government, the national government, from interfering in every local policy and interfering in the life of the communities, and let the local government do their job. And the third important thing for me is participation, that the local government has to involve the community in the decision making and in all processes. And of course, one of the most popular and best known direct tool is referendum, but also I think maybe later we can talk about it a little bit more. Participatory budgeting and all of these tools are now getting more and more popular, and I think there are municipalities also in Budapest, and as far as I know in Poland too, which use these tools, and I think it should be very important to really involve people in the decision making.
Thank you very much. I'm going to get back to these liberal elements of local politics, like participation. But first, I'd like to discuss a different issue, if you allow me. Milos already mentioned that liberalism, it's possible to have liberalism on the local level. But right now we see that the populist right claims that he somehow contradicts local values and globalism. They refer to old customs. They say that the people should take control back. So, and we can also see when we look at the numbers that in smaller municipalities there's a quite high support of these radical, populist right-wing parties. So, is it possible? Okay, usually we are discussing the big cities, right? Like liberal high grounds. But what about the smaller municipalities? Is it possible to demonstrate that liberalism could be a good answer in smaller municipalities, This is one question. And second question, is it possible to have electoral support in these smaller municipalities for a liberal agenda?
Okay. Yeah, it is. Actually, it is if you find a perfect example of it. But I think I would like to be more, right now I'm sorry for more philosophical terms, that the main problem is that at the local level, at the small municipalities, why the populists are becoming more stronger is that we lose the tie between each other, that the people get more and more individualized, they are not community based, that they are not willing to accept the differences between each other. And academic studies said it, and right now I'm pardoned for bringing an academia back to the ground, that all of us have populistic attitudes. And it depends at a certain time when they will come up. And right now they will coming up at the local level. And the main problem is that if we are not able to tackle these populistic attitudes towards liberalism, we will lose the municipalities. Again, a good practices. In Slovakia, 10 small villages are right now running or are governing with mayors who are almost 25 years old. Progressive liberals who came from abroad and were winning local election. Why? Because they promote again the vision of the community, not the vision of they came up with this political populistic attitudes about the community and about the belonging to something. So they change the discourse and they abuse populism in the purest way, and they use the populism rhetoric to be successful. And I think this is the chance to use and abuse it. Nothing else right now will happen because all of us have populistic attitudes. And the more and more we are individualized, then more and more we tend to vote for populists.
Yeah, I also think that it's nothing new, actually. It has been here for many, many years, the populism. And in smaller municipalities, actually liberalism become even more important because there is a higher danger of falling into the status quo. Like people tend to settle together and therefore have similar views, while everyone actually should be entitled to their own opinion. And under a liberal system which advocates for change, there it has a greater chance for success, allowing more personal freedom in smaller regions. Which will ensure that these areas will not fall victim to tradition and will be able to continue to expand and adapt to the changing world which you have around or which is around the people with further restrictions from the government. And it makes it more difficult. If actually someone would succeed in eradicating right-wing populists at the local level, where it is the strongest right-wing populists would have it even more difficult than on the national level, because its roots will be destroyed. And it's important to just educate and fight with the fake news, and liberalism is actually the perfect weapon for that.
This is such a complex question. It could be a panel by itself, I think. I mean, so first of all, of course, cities are more progressive, right? So it's easier for us as liberals, as liberal parties to campaign in the cities where our ideas are actually growing, where our ideas are being invented and being developed. So this is the place where liberals are being also invented and developed in big cities, and it's easier for us, especially like in the case of Central Europe, of Eastern Europe. Liberal parties, they grow in big cities. They're urban parties, urban progressive parties with very urban agendas, and this is one thing. The other thing, and especially if I look at Poland, is that it's not that we lost the countryside to the populists recently. We've never had it. I mean, countryside, especially in Poland, has always been conservative, and this is due to many things. This is due to historical reasons. This is due to the fact that the church is very strong, that the local priest is one of the most important community leaders there, and there is no many other leaders, because the leaders, when they're 18 or something, young people, they just move to the city, and that there is in many cases there is not many young progressive leaders who want to stay there, and this is also connected to the fact that in these places, within the transition in Poland, 30 years of transition, we lost many of the smaller locations. We lost a lot of countryside because we left them alone with not good level of education in schools, with not the best other public services. So just people were very eager to find somebody who would speak their language and who will be attractive to them. And in Polish case, it's the Law and Justice, is Peace Party, who just came there, and they were 8 years in the opposition. They were very active when they were in the opposition. They were actually campaigning a lot and building their networks in the countryside, building their clubs next to the church very often, and just promising people what the people wanted to hear. And it was a lot about finances, about the benefits, about kind of showing them a bit more of dignity for them. So the people felt that they are forgotten, and then the Law and Justice Party came there and they say, no, I mean, you are important to us and we'll make your life easier. So I don't think, of course there is some certain level of conservatism, but it's not only that. It's also the fact that people were waiting for an offer for them, and the Law and Justice Party, they just tailored an offer for them, and they won their votes. Does it mean that this is the party that will have these votes till the end of times? No, not really. There can be easily another party, maybe a left-wing party or maybe a bit more center party, who can attract the same votes. Just we need to do a very organic work as opposition parties, as non-law and justice parties. We need to be there among people and just talk to the people, show that we are also there and that we also care, that we have different solution for Poland's problems, that social benefits is not the only solution we offer, but there is a huge work for us to do there in the countryside, and this is something that we forgotten. In Poland, we totally forgotten about that. And now these elections is a bit different, because I think we finally realize, as again, like these big urban parties, that there is also people there. And now we can see that more and more politicians, more and more candidates representing the center parties or center left parties, they also campaign in the countryside. It's still dominated, the campaign, by Law and Justice. If you go to Polish countryside, you can see 2 opposition posters for every 1,000 peace posters. But there is something changing, and this is totally up to us. We cannot complain. This is the people's fault, the people who are living in the countryside's fault there. This is our fault that we could not reach them.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, Andrea, before we would continue, you mentioned that there are some posters, oppositional posters. From in the Hungarian countryside, I see these 2 Dairy Dogs party stickers, and also Momentum stickers. So when it comes to Hungary, are there new players on the field when it comes to the countryside?
Yes, actually, that's what I was going to say, that I couldn't agree more with Miloš, that it's up to the opposition parties, and finally, I think with Momentum coming to Hungarian politics, we see some changes in this regard. But first of all, I wanted to say that, I will talk about Hungary. We do see that Fidesz has huge support in smaller towns. It's important to remember that it's not like liberal parties or even leftist parties are only more popular in Budapest, but also in other big cities in Hungary. But if you go to smaller towns, then opposition parties simply disappear, and Fidesz is there with the vast majority. So, but I think it's not because Fidesz has something great to offer people living in the countryside. I think the main reason behind this phenomena is first of all, Fidesz has the resource to campaign on the countryside. They have the media, they have money, and they are really focusing on contacting people living not only on Budapest or in other big cities, but on the countryside, and that's what opposition parties don't do, and that's a big problem for the opposition. And while we have to admit and we have to keep in mind that they don't have the resources, and they struggle even to have great results in big cities, they can't win general elections without campaigning on the countryside, and I think that's a major problem for the opposition, and I think that's what we see with Momentum campaigning and building a network also in smaller towns, and maybe that's why. Well, it was not a liberal party to say at least, but that's why the far-right Jobbik could be successful in 2010. It was because they were focusing also on the countryside, and I think it should be important because we can see that Fidesz has no great offers to people living in the countryside. If we see what Fidesz is doing and Fidesz's communication, we see that they are talking about migration, they are talking about the Soros plan, they have a strong anti-European message, but what does it mean for them? I mean, it's not something which is great for people living there. So it's not like they have a great program, and opposition parties can't come up with something better. It's just something they do not try. But a more positive thing that we see that especially in the local elections, independent candidates are more popular in smaller towns, villages, and I think we have a lot of independent mayors in the countryside who govern based on liberal values, and they embrace those liberal values. They are just not party politicians, so we talk about them less. They are not as important in national politics, but in the life of those communities, they are very important, and I think we see some liberal politicians there, and for them it's good because, of course, local politics and local elections are not about party politics, especially in smaller places.
Thank you that you mentioned the independent candidates, and we are also talked about what the independent candidate means. I think there are two issues when we discuss local politics, and you mentioned both of them. First, participation. So on the local level, as you mentioned, I believe Shaka was who mentioned it first, that there's more chance for a face-to-face contact with the electorate or with the community. So I'd like to discuss these two issues. Participation. So recently, this participative budgeting it's very trendy. Everyone like to demonstrate that they like to be open, and they like to open up the budget for the community. And the second issue is the civil society, the local civil society, because in the case of Jobbik and the case of the PiS, they just built a network of this bad civil society, as it is used to, people used to say it in academia. So the thing is, when it comes to participation, I think a lot of people don't want to participate. So I'm not sure if it seems like a good political offer, but I think especially when it comes to bigger cities, people don't really want to participate. So I'm a bit skeptic. I don't know what's your opinion about that. When it comes to civil society, we always think about civil society that is something which is above all progressive, which is a good thing. But exactly the example of Jobbik and PiS demonstrates that it's not necessarily so. It's possible to have a bad civil society and the network of bad civil society. And when it comes to civil society, there's also a question if the independent candidates, are they against party politics or not? Or does it give surplus resources for the big politics or not? So these are the issues I'd like to discuss.
Okay, let me start, I think, with the first, is a question or maybe a comment also, that from my personal view, maybe from that what happens in Slovakia the past years after the murder of Jan Kuciak, that the society completely changed their view towards politics. They feel like, I think, I speak to all Central Europe societies, they feel like the politics betrayed them, they lied to them, they feel that they are not willing to participate because nothing will change actually, because all them are corrupted. So I think we need to change the perception how do people see the politics, because usually the people are looking for the national politics to secure them, human rights, social services, etc. But they don't look at the national politics to do so also right now. But I think if we change this perception of them and make a participatory approach towards the local level, we can change also the mood of the citizens. About the independent candidate, I think this is a question, or if I open the Pandora's box, because independent candidates are the only hope right now in Slovakia at the local level, but also a disease for the party politics, because we are a liberal democracy who is relying on political parties. And more independent, for me, it means more mess in the party politics. And it's the example of Trnava also, because the mayor there completely refused to talk with parties, and he collect his own list of independent candidates at the MP level. He was successful right now. He changed the climate, but I'm afraid if he will lose the next election, what happens to the society, because he changed the mood of the society. They are completely in the unpolitic society in Trnava, without any kind of background, any kind of ideology, nothing, zero. So this is, I think, some call for the future, that, okay, independent candidates could be the challenge and the tool how to fight populist far-right or candidates, but they will be also a window of opportunity for them to be destroyed, these kind of societies.
Yeah, I completely agree with Vera. The problem is that we really have to change also in our country the perspective of the politics. I think the people just have to not just have a feeling, but they just have to see that if they express their opinion, that it's taken and that the politicians hear them, and it's not just a game, or like, okay, I just did my campaign and now whatever you say, I will just do whatever I want. And this is sometimes a problem in the Czech Republic. And about the individuals, that's one of the biggest problems, because what we just recently had in a few years, there were some very strong individuals who split from the party, and they tried to candidate on behalf of themselves. And even, for example, for me, they were the most well-known politicians. I knew them as a child and I remember them. And they just didn't succeed because they just split from the party. And this is a huge mistake, and I think this is a huge loss for us.
So let me start with a question about independent candidates. So in Poland, we elect the mayors but also the city council. And so the mayors are directly elected. And this is a very weird system because we have mayors with a rather strong mandate, but still they have to cooperate with the city council. And the city council is normally dominated by the parties. Even we have independent candidates, the city council is dominated by the parties. So at the end of the day, they all have to cooperate. And if we have independent candidates elected as mayors, they really depend on the parties. And most of the independent candidates are people who were actually member of the party, one or another, and they decided to leave because the party did not nominate them to be their candidate for mayor. This is the story. So still, party politics in Poland is very, very strong on local level. Even more, we saw that in the regional and municipality elections 2018, when basically it was all about two blocks. It was about peace and the civic coalition. And we, as the Civic Coalition, I was campaigning I was part of the campaign team of the Civic Coalition. We basically, in a way, we destroyed all other opposition parties because these elections they were municipal elections, but they were presented as national elections. They were elections in favor or against the government, law and justice. And this is the reason, even though we have in Poland, especially in cities, on the regional level, local level, many small local parties, they are active only in Warsaw, only in Krakow and other cities. In 2018, because there were elections for or against peace, they were all gone. I mean, they have some representatives here or there, but they're very small compared to what we had before 2018. So the party politics is very strong. And an example I would like to give you is Warsaw. So in Warsaw, before 2018, we have really many local parties represented in the Warsaw City Council. Now there are 60 seats. It's 40 for us, for Civic Coalition, 19 for Peace, and 1 for the Social Democrats. Everybody else who was there is gone. So I see that there is some difference between our societies. For us, definitely the independent candidates, it's not the answer because party politics is important, and this duopoly, this dichotomy between the government and everything that's anti-government is very strong. Even though we can definitely see, especially among young people, that there is a very strong tendency against political parties, that there are movements, that people are interested in single issue movements. I'm a young person, I'm 18, 20, maybe 30. I'm not interested in parties at all. I hate parties, this is what people say. But I'm interested in renovating this street. I'm interested in building a skate park here, or to plant 100 trees in this neighborhood. This is something that happens a lot, but at the end of the day, these people make alliances with parties because this is the way the politics is done. And we had discussions a few years ago. Yes, the politics will change. There will be no more parties. It will be only movements, only single-issued movements who will maybe merge and create some kind of movements that we in Polish we call it urban movements, that there will be different urban activists, they will join together and they will build this movement. It's actually not true anymore, which is very much connected with the political development we have with the Law and Justice Party, with this government, that it's nothing like we've seen before. So I could say that right now we're living in a very, very weird times when really all the tendencies that we're saying, all the trends that we're saying are changed because of this government, and this government is not normal. It's something extraordinary. So also we have to adjust our tactics to this extraordinary times. And one last comment to the participation, and to what you also mentioned. In Poland, participatory budget is a big thing. I know that many countries are just experimenting in that. For Polish cities, it's something that we've been doing for many years, and we are observing many changes. So especially in Warsaw, I can see that we are after right now is I think 11th edition. I'm not sure, but I think it's about the 11th edition. So we see that there is less projects that people apply for, which maybe is not really the worst thing ever, because many of the really bad projects are gone. Because we had some years, let's say 2007, the project one, we're gonna build a bike lane where was a parking lot. 2010, actually people voted that we're gonna remove this biking lane and build a parking lot again because they were really angry that that project won last year. So there is some adjustments, and there is more and more money. But what really bothers me that participatory budget is becoming like a pet project for many of the cities. This is the only thing they do in field of participation. They do nothing else. But they say, hey, but we're doing participatory budget. No? There's this 200,000 euros that we give people to spend. Yeah, but the same people, they have no access to the city council. They can actually not ask questions at the city council meetings because the council speaker is not very in favor of that. They are not really consulted with the most important investments. So if participatory budget becomes this kind of a pet project, a token, this is a terrible thing to do. This is something that I'm very much against, and it's becoming this way even from this year. By law, implemented by Law and Justice, participatory budgets are obligatory in all municipalities. There are, I think, 50,000 people or more. So they see, okay, this is a nice token. Let's do it obligatory for everybody. This is not the way. This is just something that they can hide behind, saying we are doing great participatory policy. They are not doing it. They are doing something totally opposite, and this is just a token they are using.
This is something participation from above, and maybe the participative budgeting could work because, okay, the people decide what to build and where to build, but the politicians are picking the contractors who are building it. So then at the end of the day, they decide about the money. But sorry, just a little pun. Back to you, Andrea.
Yeah, let me start with your question about participation. You said that you are skeptic because you feel that people, don't want to participate. Well, my answer is, short. I think they do. It's just, maybe it's true for all of our countries, the Visegrad countries. I think the culture is not good for that. And I think, especially, in Hungary, I know there is a growing culture of, not participating and not caring about politics, and this all messy politics is just not sexy anymore, and especially young people, they don't want to spend their time reading about politics or caring about politics, and I think that's why they do not want to participate. But I think if we would have a functioning political system where and when people feel that they can really influence how our politics is going or how our community, which direction we are going, then they would like to participate. We just have to, or politicians have to make the environment for this. Well, on independent candidate, it's a tough question. I think in Hungary we can talk about two separate things and two separate kind of independent candidates. As I mentioned, my previous answer, in very small towns, villages, always independent candidates are very, very popular, and we see that no party politician even runs for mayoral seats or for the council, because I think it's just that's how it is in Hungary. But also it's true that they are often affiliated to one political party or another. They're just not running as party candidates. But on the other hand, we have independent candidates are more and more popular in big cities, and I think in Hungary it's a thing that it became more and more popular in the past years, that people, maybe experts, the media, see independent candidates as some kind of miracles, and they wait for very good independent candidates just to show up from one moment to another and bring change. And I think, personally, I think that's not how it works. And we saw a lot of independent candidates showing up, running for mayor, or even 5 years ago running for Lord Mayor of Budapest, and we see that it's not working that well, simply because in Hungary, as yeah, as Vieira said, we are living, at least we want to live in a liberal democracy where parties, at the end of the day, the parties doing politics, and there are party politicians sitting in the parliament, and all of politics in Hungary is done by the parties. And when there are independent candidates, they are just, well, even a campaign is not that well functioning because they do not know how party politics work. They somehow even reject the whole party system, and they don't like parties, but in the same time they need the help of the parties to win elections. So it's a tricky situation, and I think in Hungary there is a kind of mistrust between civil society and independent candidates and the parties, because civil society is really doing great work in Hungary but reject party politics altogether. So when they organize demonstrations, when they are on the streets, they always ask everyone to not bring party banners with themselves and everything. So they just want to stay far away from party politics. But I think it would be helpful to create a more trusting environment between the civil society and political parties, because I think at the end of the day they have to work together to somehow challenge this illiberal government. So they should find a way.
Thank you, but it is not the case in the with right-wing parties and right-wing civil society, because just imagine that the civil society affiliates of Fidesz party says that please don't bring the Fidesz badges and the Fidesz banners to our protest. But if it doesn't work, then I would be curious what could work. So is there, yeah, we talked already about Bratislava, we talked about Warsaw. So is there a general recipe of challenging the populist right or the populist government from the liberal city, or at least to be able to get these cities back? If we are in the middle of an election campaign now in Hungary, just imagine that I am Gergely Karácsony, and I'd like to have some advice from you what to do to be to run for the as a Lord Mayor with success.
So I will be the advisor right now of the, okay, from my experience, because we advised two local campaigns, they were successfully, that this is something that I'm really proud of. One was the progressive mayor from the little town, and the other was progressive MP from city council. And my advice to them was, and maybe this is the case also in Budapest, that you need to redefine the position of the people towards politics, that you need to give them back their role as public persons. Not only that they received the public services, received the tips from the local government, but they are also an active role in the local government. So how to reclaim, redefine their position. And it helped them because they joined forces with the local communities, NGOs, some foundations, some informal organization of youth, and they bringing back again the vision to the local community. And I think that the people are desperately telling you that they need vision for the future, nothing else. Because we talk about the problems in the cities, we talk about the policies in the cities, we talk about to defeat Fico, Orban, Kaczynski, whatever, Babiš also, sorry to not mention it, but he's from Slovakia, so I'm also not proud to that he's rolling in Czech Republic. But yeah, I think people, especially the younger generation, is willing to listen, but you need to give them the vision for their future, to stay there, not to moving abroad.
Yeah, I think we already mentioned it, that it's nothing new, the populism, and Western Europe has had the problems with this for like several decades, and maybe in some of the countries it just developed later just because of the fall of the communism later, so then it got more space. And I would say that the general recipe is to educate the people. I mean, through the education and through the, let's say, even the enlightenment and the cooperation is a crucial. And cities are actually often cited as the source of liberalism. And it's because the people live in such a close quarters with each other, and it becomes necessary to come to compromise with those who have different beliefs. And this is often done by allowing more like personal freedom or the freedom of speech. And many Eastern European countries have populist governments, and for their liberal cities it's to challenge them, and they must just have to cooperate together on common issues and develop a solution that will have a majority vote, since both populism and liberalism promote majoritism. And in Slovakia, actually, more liberal candidates have won from receiving a support from progressive liberals in cities working together to support a common issue, which is a good example.
Since he's already elected as a candidate, so the only advices I can give him, I guess, is like campaigning advices. So I would say, build a story about the city you want to live. Build a story to tell the people about Budapest you want to live. I mean, and to build a story, you need to talk with the people before. You cannot just sit in your office and write the story by yourself. You need to listen to people, and the best version is that you've actually been doing it for a long time, and then you collect all the stories from the people and build a story about Budapest in the future that you can sell to the people later. Use data. It's not all about your gut feelings. It's about data. Winning elections about numbers. It's about winning, particular numbers in particular districts, and sometimes you just need to count where you campaign very well, and who you target to. So this also brings us to the target groups. You need to know who do you talk to. You cannot talk to everybody. You have to talk to the people who can potentially vote for you and bring you the votes. And so yeah, I guess this would be 2 weeks before the elections. This would be my advice. From Polish perspective, our situation is easier because 1, we had this united opposition, and 2, PiS really is not able to win in a big city. The biggest city that PiS won a mayor in 2018, I think, is the 65th biggest town in Poland. So it's actually a town. It's not a city to us. It's a town. So they don't have a single city that's like in the top 10. Not Warsaw, not Krakow, not Poznań, nothing like that. So for us, the story is easier because we know that if we have a common candidate, like there's a huge chance we're gonna win. And it's different here, so I'm very happy that you have this common candidate in Hungary, because this is this first step, I guess, you have to make. Now it's just a good campaign, and as far as I know the polls, this is a very tight race. So also the last week is always from the campaigning perspective the most important. You just have to campaign 24/7.
I think. Challenging illiberal government from a liberal city, there's 2 parts of this issue. I think first, especially in Hungary, it should be important to actually win a big city in order to show how different a government or how different a leadership can be from what we are seeing from Fidesz, and to show competence from the opposition side, because I think one of the main problem of the Hungarian opposition is that, of course, there is a Fidesz government since 2010. So young people don't remember how things were before Fidesz came into power, and also yes, we have some mayors of the districts of Budapest governed by opposition politicians, and but maybe another 3 big cities or something like that. So there's no opposition leadership in Hungary. So winning Budapest would be important in that regard, to show that the opposition, they can lead and they can govern a city, and it would be a great example going into the next general elections. It would be important. The other thing is that having one a big city, it would mean a lot of resources to opposition parties and opposition politicians. It would mean more money, more media, more opportunity to talk with the people, more like practical things that after governing Budapest for a few years, or other big cities as well for a few years, their program and the next campaign wouldn't be about, okay, we would do this or we would do that, but it would be so theoretical and just ideas. But they could say that, okay, we've done this and we did this, and so it would be very good for the next general elections also.
Thank you very much. This is the time I'd like to open the floor for the questions from the audience. I'd like to ask if there are questions. It seems not, but I have a question to Milos, if you allow, because I think the Hungarian situation and the Polish situation is somehow similar when it comes to the fragmented opposition and the united government party. So the question is that, okay, this time Gergely Karácsony is a single candidate as the candidate of the opposition, but how does it work in Warsaw and in Poland? So how was it possible to bring together the very different opposition parties, and what do you think how stable it is? And if there are any kind of disadvantages when it comes, for example, to the vision. Maybe it's harder to make a vision, or it's harder to tell a story for the people if there are so many forces there, and maybe they can't agree upon one particular story.
It's difficult. You're right. So first of all, we built 2 different coalitions in last 12 months. So a bit more. No, 12 months. 12 months. So. In November 2018, we had local and regional elections, and we built a coalition basically of 2 parties. Of my party, which is Nowoczesna, the modern party, the liberal party, and Civic Platform, which is biggest Polish opposition party. And we built this coalition for the 2018 elections. And this coalition was seen by the people as very coherent, because my party was born in a way in the opposition of the Civic Platform. We were seen as a more progressive part of the opposition, but we've been cooperating for the last 4 years in the parliament very closely. So people saw this move as something very expected, and very coherent again. So we were also able to offer a program that was on the regional municipal level was for people just very, very acceptable and expected, because again this was municipal and regional elections. So you talk a lot about the stuff that are close to the people, and on the other side the elections were all about the national issues, and our main national goal is to kick out this government. So it was very much appreciated by the people. We got a huge bonus for cooperating. And again, as I said, this bonus meant that people supported us and chose us on the election day instead of other small parties. So in many big cities, we won, and we won big majorities in the city councils, and this was the first thing. Then what we did for the European elections this year, we tried to build even a bigger coalition, because we were afraid that the DON system we're using in Poland, the system that of allocating the seats in the parliament, that promotes big blocks, big parties. So PiS, if they poll at 40%, if we split the votes of the opposition, and let's say the opposition parties, they have 20, 10, and 10, and PiS has 40, in the parliament they'll have huge majority because this don't system promotes the winner. So we knew that we wanted to build a big block, a block that will be close to PiS's result in the elections. And it was a block, so it was again us, it was the civic platform, but it was also the Social Democrats, the nominal Social Democrats, the post-communist party, it was the Greens, and it was the Polish People's Party, which is the farmers. And we built a block that got 39% in European elections, so we are very proud. But then we saw, so you know, it was the night when they were showing the polls, and we were like 39% for the European coalition. We're like 39%, this is amazing. And then we saw PiS 45%, and like no other party has ever in Polish history got so many votes, like 45%, over 6 million votes. So we're actually a bit down, and we analyzed that. 53. Wow, this is something. So I hope we are not going there. But what we discovered in the EP election, now we see that maybe the coalition was too broad. I mean, absolutely, it was hard to find a common ground. It was hard to find a good program for the European elections. It was very hard to build a story, something more than we want to kick this government out. And it was very difficult. And then now from the data and the analysis, we see that we lost the votes on the both wings of this coalition. So on the other, PiS was mobilizing very well their voters, but was also demobilizing our voters. So the people who were from the Polish People's Party, who are in our coalition, but are the most conservative chunk of this coalition, PiS was telling them, so what, you farmers, you'll be voting for this coalition, you think you vote for your people, but then eventually from your constituency there will be this green guy elected who is like super pro LGBT, and like this is something that you are against. So many of the farmers voters, they stayed home. And on the other side, they were demobilizing the most progressive part of the coalition, saying, you know, so you want to vote for these conservative farmers, like you want to get these people elected. And so we see that basically we lost against PiS mostly because the turnout and the demobilization of our voters. So now you may know that we actually go to the polls, to the polling stations the same day as you here. So October 13th, we vote in general elections. And now the opposition is actually going in 3 blocks. So it's again the civic coalition, so Modern Party and the Civic Platform. It's the coalition of 3 left-wing parties, and it's the farmers. We'll see how it works. Again, we're doing an experiment one more time. We know that the experiment from the European Parliament elections was not super successful because we lost some votes. So we're trying to mobilize our voters now using these 3 blocks. Will we win with the DONT system? It's hard to say. Right now, the polls are, PiS is polling around 40, 43. We as a coalition, we are polling between, let's say, 27 and 31. The left is between 10 and 13, and the farmers are around 5, 6. So if we get 30, the left gets around 13, so this is the optimistic scenario, and the farmers are about 6, we can have more seats in the parliament that PiS have. But, you know, this is a huge question mark. I'm slightly optimistic, or maybe slightly pessimistic. Like, you know, I'm not sure. This is going to be super difficult. There's one more thing we're trying to do. There is a pact of all these 3 blocks, so the left, the center, and the farmers, to the Senate. So because we have the proportional election system to the lower chamber, but to the Senate we have first past the post. So we have 100 constituencies where we elect 1 senator per constituency. And in this 100 constituencies, with some exceptions, like 3 or 4, we, as all opposition parties, we have 1 candidate. So it's going to be us against PiS. And so our plan minimum is to win the Senate. So even if PiS, they have the majority in the lower chamber, the most important one, we are trying to get the majority in the Senate, 51 out of 100, because this will allow us to slow down many of their processes and stop some of the processes too. So this is the plan minimum. I will tell you if it worked out in 17 days.
Thank you. I'm asking the panelists if they want to add something or comment to what Mira said. No? Thank you very much. I think I hope that at the next discussion we can talk about the Budapest case as a success story and as a good example, and maybe we, the Hungarian experts, are going to be asked about the recipe to challenge populism. Thank you very much for coming here. Thank you very much for the audience as well. I'd like to ask you to bring back these field questionnaires to the reception, and also not to forget to bring back these translation gadgets as well. Thank you very much.